The Spring National Tournament, Day 3, the quarterfinals. The Crows of Karasuno emerge victorious in the Battle of the Garbage Dump, concluding their eternal rivalry with the Cats of Nekoma in a nail-biting contest. Now, the Seagulls await them. Kamomedai and their little giant await them. However, the skies would not favor the Crows today. After a heart-stopping, awe-inspiring, limit-breaking 3 sets, the tiny decoy's weathered wings finally break. The tragic, harsh reality washes over him as his knees buckle, as his fingers tremble, and his eyes blur. If only his wings lasted a little longer. If only his arms moved a little faster. If only his legs jumped a little higher. If only. After giving the best performance of his life, Hinata Shoyo, as well as Karasuno, falls. This is simultaneously the most tragic yet beautiful moment in all of Haikyuu. A moment that I will always remember as one that felt too real. When his team needed him the most, when the game was almost in his grasp, Hinata got sick. He got a fever. We've all had moments like this, moments where we've given it our all, where we've gotten so close to our ultimate goal, just to fall short because of something outside of our control. We've all had that thought. Why now? Of all the days for this to happen, why now, man? But that's life. Yes, Hinata got unlucky, but could he afford to allow such a failure again? Could he brush it off as a random incident and continue to live on as he did until now? No. After all, luck graces those who are prepared. To stand at the very top, to become the greatest, one must be prepared for everything. That is the truth of this world, and that was the truth for Hinata Shoyo. As Takeda-sensei puts it, engrave this feeling of despair, of sadness into your heart. Hinata, right now, this very moment, this is still volleyball. As Karasuno loses the quarterfinals, as Hinata says goodbye to his paradise, there is only one thought burning in his head. Today, you are the defeated. But what will you become tomorrow? From the Tokyo training camp to the Ball Boy saga, as much as I love these training arcs to death, there is one that, for me, stands above the rest. A training arc that beautifully yet realistically begins a new chapter in Hinata's life. One that is filled with hardship, struggle, and discipline. This is the culmination of all of the themes of Haikyuu. An arc that perfectly captures the brutal reality of what it takes to reach the very top. It's not just hard work and training, it's not just talent and hunger, it's the little things, the subtle habits that get you that much closer to greatness. This is the story of a man starting from scratch, breaking himself down over and over every single day in order to achieve his dreams. This is the final training arc in Haikyuu. This is the Brazil arc. Three years after his heartbreaking loss against Kamomedai, we find Hinata in a strange, unfamiliar place. He sits on a bicycle, carrying a food delivery bag, surrounded by a foreign language. He gazes into a television screen on an unknown street, which shows a live broadcast of his teammate, friend, and rival, Kageyama Tobio, playing for the Japanese national team in the Olympics at the age of 19. Realizing he's getting late for work, Hinata takes off, delivering food throughout the streets of Rio de Janeiro. Somehow, someway, Hinata was in Brazil. As we cut to a panel of a beautiful Brazilian beach, we see Hinata playing volleyball, but not like he usually does. The brilliant sun shines upon him as a barefooted Hinata trudges through the sand, sending a fantastic set to his teammate, who scores the winning point. This wasn't indoor. This wasn't 5 versus 5. This was beach volleyball. In his second year of high school, Hinata decided to embark on a new journey after he graduated high school, a journey to take his game to the next level. It was a risky and reckless decision, something no one had done before, but one that he believed would take him to the stage he always dreamt of. And so Hinata decided that he wanted to train through beach volleyball, a completely different sport with completely different rules. But why start all over? Why not work on further improving his indoor volleyball instead? Well, beach volleyball only has 2 players per team instead of the usual 5. That would mean that 2 players would have to do the work of 5. Hinata would have to be able to reach every corner of the court and master every skill of the sport if he was to survive on the beach. From digging to setting to serving to spiking, Hinata would have to do it all. If Hinata wanted to reach the same level as Kageyama, this is the path he would have to take. However, Japan was not the place to train beach volleyball at a high level, at least not for the purpose Hinata intended. If he wanted to become one with the beach, Hinata would have to go to the home of beach volleyball. He would have to go to Brazil. With the help of Washijo Sensei, Hinata creates a plan where, after graduating high school, he would spend a year learning beach in Japan, then go over to Brazil, where he would have only 2 years to complete his training. When I first read this, I was pleasantly surprised, and as the arc went on, I couldn't help but admire Hinata for making such a bold decision. No one had done what Hinata was trying to do, to use the beach as strictly a means of training. And although it seemed like a great idea, it would not be easy. I mean, it's not easy moving to a new country. It's not easy leaving behind everything you love. It's not easy learning a new sport. And it's not easy doing it in just 2 years. However, for Hinata, this was the only way forward. His loss to Kamo Meidai weighed heavily on his conscience, and he would do whatever it took to make sure that never happened again. He would learn a new language, he would master a new sport, he would work a job to finance himself, and he would come back stronger than ever before. And so, Hinata Shoyo sets off, determined to carve a new path towards his future. Yet, life would not go easy on this young man. The beach is a cruel mistress, with its buffeting winds and raging sands. The wind messes with his ball prediction, the sand hinders his jumps, and the sun's blazing heat reminds him of how little time he has. It's a hell of an adjustment to make, and the harsh circumstances force him to change how he plays volleyball. He has to jump harder, think harder, move faster, while also learning new rules and new techniques all at once, and most of the time, it's still not enough. He loses match after match, tournament after tournament, with nothing to keep him going but a distant dream. Yet, he has no time to be sad about such things, because he has to immediately go off to work right after training. As he begins his job as a food delivery man, he finds himself constantly getting lost in the bustling roads of Rio. He finds it tough to pick up this new language, his roommate doesn't like him, and one day, he even loses his wallet. The wallet his sister had given him before coming to Brazil. Sometimes life just doesn't go your way, and what struck me about this arc was how it was willing to portray that experience in such a grounded way. I mean, we've all been there, when it feels like the world itself is against us, and wherever you go, whatever you do, it's all going wrong. For just a moment, it makes you think, did I make the right decision? Did I make a mistake? Are my dreams always going to remain dreams? It's a terrifying position to be in, and I can only imagine how much worse it must be for Hinata, who has to deal with all these different kinds of problems he's never faced before. There's no dialogue or thought bubbles that convey these emotions directly, but it's the lack of those aspects that tells a story in itself. His trembling hands, his bent posture, his panicked expression, and the back of his head, hiding his emotions as he gazes into this unknown world. Truly, nothing is going his way. And that brings us to a scene that breaks me every time I see it. A little moment that many people might overlook, but one that speaks to the very depths of my soul. As he comes back home from a hard day of work, losing his wallet and making no progress on the beach, the beaming smile we're so accustomed to, the radiant expression that always inspires those around him, drops. A melancholic Hinata stares at the lock screen of his phone with a look of sadness that I've honestly never seen on him. As the page turns, we see that his wallpaper is a picture of him and his teammates from high school. Thinking back on the good times, thinking back on fond memories, Hinata curls up in the corner of his dark, dark room, tears glimmering in his hopeful eyes. Even the best of us have bad days. Even the best of us can lose hope. And this moment captures that so elegantly. There's no dialogue, no thoughts, just Hinata and a quiet room. Eventually though, a few moments pass, and the bent posture rises up once more. The determination takes over once more. I'm sure in these dark moments, Hinata thinks back on his home, on his family, on his friends, on his coaches. All the people that supported him to get this far. After all that effort, all that hard work, he couldn't stop now, could he? He couldn't give up now. No matter what happens, Hinata would give it his all and see it through to the very end. You know, I just recently moved to a new country myself, finally studying something I'm passionate about and trying to chase my dreams. But every now and then, more often than not, I get doubtful. I start to question my ability, my skills. I remember how hard and competitive the world is, and I wonder if I made the right decision. This is the path I've chosen, and I'm going to stick with it no matter what. But will it be worth it? As the doubt starts seeping in, as my anxiety builds up, I recall my family back home. I try to imagine their faces, their reactions to when I become successful someday, and it gives me hope. I think about this channel, all the amazing positive comments, the sheer number of people that watch my content, and it gives me hope. When you have bad days, and trust me, you will, it always helps, at least for me, to think of your loved ones. People that support you and wish the best for you. How awesome would it be to put a smile on their face? How satisfying would it be to see their reaction to your success? It's just a little scene, something that might get overshadowed by this exciting and riveting training arc, but it's easily up there as one of my favorite moments in the entire series. It's real, it's relatable, and it shows us a side of Hinata that makes me appreciate his character so much more. Even for the happy-go-lucky protagonist of the story, reality is harsh, reality is brutal, but that's what makes him that much more admirable. And so, Hinata takes off once more, stumbling, falling, yet doing everything he possibly can for the sake of getting better. In this arc, more than ever before, we see Hinata's love for learning, his love for growth, paired with that feeling of despair, of loss. We see these two extreme emotions combine and take him to unimaginable heights. His love for learning inspires that first step, the first step to a new beginning, whether it be a new language, a new skill, or a new habit. But it's that feeling of despair, that stinging pain you feel through loss, that allows him to maintain these habits, allows him to keep pushing through the toughest of times. Here we see some beautiful panels that show Hinata taking on these new habits, small subtle habits that come together to fuel his insane evolution. And we're shown that through subtle panels like his bookshelf in his room. We see books for building muscle, books for diet and meal prep, books for sleeping, books for building habits, and so many other little things that most people might not even consider. We see a montage of him putting these habits to practice. We see him planning out his exercises, hitting the gym, eating healthy, sleeping well, doing yoga, practicing on the beach, practicing indoors, and even calming his mind through meditation. At the same time, he's trying to get along with his roommate, learning the language, and getting to know the people he plays with. Looking over all the titles of his books and watching him practicing these habits day in and day out, I was in absolute awe of this little man, of how far he was willing to go for the sake of his dreams. Hinata was truly eating, drinking, sleeping, and breathing volleyball. Through this insane work ethic, Hinata makes it a habit to be reliable, healthy, and happy. And all of this just so that he would be prepared. So when he needed to perform his best, when his team needed him the most, this time he would be there, standing tall and proud. After all of this is still volleyball. And so Hinata's journey continues as days, weeks, and months go by. Throughout this arc, he meets different people, learns different skills, masters different techniques, and slowly but surely, we watch as he develops a dangerous, deadly playstyle. A playstyle that builds on the decoy he used to be and makes it much, much more terrifying. This is the playstyle that finally took Hinata Shoyo to the world stage. And the person who planted the seed for that playstyle was none other than the Great King himself. The Oikawa and Hinata mini-arc is just amazing, not only showing us the phenomenal journey of one of our favorite characters, but also using it to teach Hinata a life-changing lesson. After all, through his games with Oikawa, Hinata learns to view himself from the perspective of the opponents. What do they think I'm going to do? How do they see me? And how can I manipulate that image? Hinata had been playing some pretty crazy mind games in the Kama-Meidai match, but that was only because he had 5 players through which he could create confusion, hide, stand out, and cause absolute mayhem. Now that it was just 2 players on the court, he had to switch things up. Until now, his greatest hurdle was covering the entire court. When a spiker was hitting and his partner was blocking, Hinata would have to defend the entire court on his own, which was quite the task. How could he accurately predict where the ball would come and then get there on time to get a perfect receive? I mean, he would have to know where the spiker was hitting before the ball was even on his side of the court. So how could he pull it off time after time? Until he met Oikawa, that answer was unclear. But once he began viewing himself from the opponent's perspective, it was like the entire world opened up. Through loss after loss, failure after failure, Hinata had finally realized what he needed to do. Rather than being at the mercy of his opponent, it was about time Hinata took control of the court himself. Instead of going after the ball at the last moment, he would direct the course of the ball to a position where he wanted it. And that would only be possible if he knew how his opponents were perceiving him. If I was in the opponent's shoes right now, where would I hit it? Using that information, Hinata could act like he was moving into a certain position, leaving a space seemingly open. It's as if he were saying, "Oh look, I'm over here. You don't want to hit it to me, do you?" And when the opponent went for the opposite space, the space Hinata had left open on purpose, Hinata would already be expecting it. With all the muscle and speed he'd built up, Hinata could reach that space in an instant, suddenly in total control of the game. With the help of his coach, his beach partners, and the Great King himself, Hinata refines this playstyle over the next few months, and as we descend upon the beaches of Rio, we see a well-muscled, ridiculously quick, and seemingly unstoppable Hinata gracing the court. No matter where the opponent smashed the ball, no matter how open the space, Hinata was suddenly there, every single time, perfectly receiving it and, in the blink of an eye, like a mighty crow, taking to the skies with his wings spread wide. He was like a warrior in the shadows, unpredictable and unnoticeable, pulling strings behind the scenes with effortless stealth, until it was too late, until his blade was drawn and blood was spilled. Truly, it was as if the court had been taken over by a ninja. This was the final step to becoming the greatest decoy, to become a decoy for himself. When I saw all of this unfold, I couldn't help but reminisce about the simple-minded yet ambitious little kid who wanted to stay on the court longer than anybody else. I couldn't help but admire how much he's had to endure, how much he's had to sacrifice in order to make that dream a reality. Giving up his dream of becoming the little giant, accepting his shortcomings as a player, changing his entire lifestyle for the sake of his goals, all of this is nothing short of inspiring. This arc made me realize how far Hinata Shoyo has come, and how close we are to the end of his journey. Soon, tales spread throughout Rio of a little Japanese man, clashing with the best of the best, who could partner up with anyone at any time and dominate the court through the shadows. Throughout all the beaches of Brazil, there was one name that everyone knew and everyone loved: Ninja Shoyo. As Hinata completes his 2 years of training in Brazil, as he says goodbye to all the friends he's made, as he returns home to Japan, we watch him enter the court one last time as Haikyuu's final and greatest dance approaches. Thank you very much for watching this video. The Brazil arc is my favorite training arc in all of anime manga, and I've been waiting to make this video ever since I made my first ever Hinata analysis video. So thank you for watching it. Before I end the video, I just want to express my gratitude to all of you that stuck by me, each and every one of you that stuck by me in 2022. It was a great year for the channel and a huge year for me as a person. None of this would have been possible if not for you guys, so truly, thank you very much. If you enjoyed the content, consider liking, subscribing, and all that good stuff. With that, I wish all of you an amazing, a blessed, and a happy new year, and I guess I'll see you on the next one.